Oh, e te iwi, e tēnei kaupapa o planting seeds, tino wai marie tātou katoa, kua tai mai nei a Papa Wetini ki te whakarangatira i tēnei kaupapa o tātou. Nō reira, Papa, nau mai.
Tēnā koe, rāniera, tēnei te mihi ake nei ki a koe, o tira tēnei kaupapa, whakahira nei, tēnā no hoki tātou, kai mahi, tēnā tātou.
Chair, thank you so much for freeing up some time to come and have this kōrero. I was telling you a little bit of air there that, you know, I've been really wanting to have this kōrero with you, and I'm just glad that this kaupapa has brought us together to go into some wānanga, to share some whakaaro about this huarahi of Pākihi, tēnei au Pākihi. Engari, it's also looking at being Māori in this space as well. And so, you know, just to start us off, you know, for those who may not be aware of who you are in this kaupapa, ko wai koe, and then we'll let our kōrero go from there.
Ko Wetini Mitai ngātai tōku ingoa, no te rawa whānui, o tira no whakatōhea, upokorehe ngai tama haua, tētahi aku tūpuna i ahu mai i te nota, nō reira Ngāti Kahu ki ngā puhi. O tira tūwhare toa, te rā taha wōku. E ki rā, he toto rau pēr, toko maha tunu ngā iwi i roto, ngā toto i roto i ā. Taku mahi, Pakihi nei, work in tourism, Maori cultural attraction, and of course we've been hit hard over this last 2 years with the COVID, like everyone else, and so it's been quite a bit of challenge, but yeah, so that's the other side of me, business since I was about 23 years old, and brought up on the farm with my koro, te haupu Wetini Mitai, Mitai, from Whakatōhea, and my nan was from Ngāti Rangitihi, and then that's the connection up to the north as well. Her father was from Ngāpuhi, and so Ngāti Rangitihi, Tūhaurangi, Ngāti Pikiao, Rangiwewehi, heaps, all of Te Rawa, but brought up on the farm, went to a school, St. Michael's, a Catholic school. Yeah, so, but the biggest influence, I guess, was on the farm with my koro, and loved my koro to bits. Me, my younger brother Tahu, and cousin Aaron, brought up on the farm. Horses, cows, sheep, the bush, tractors, all sorts.
Wow.
Oh, good fun.
And what's that like for, because that was quite common back in those rās, for young people to be raised by their kaumātua. Was that something that you feel was common, and what's the beauty within that?
I think, yeah, definitely learned a lot from my koro. Mainly with my koro, my nan used to stay in town with their daughter. But koro was one that led by example.
Wow. And
when he was 8 years old, he left school to help his father out because his mother had died, and then his father married again, so he had to look after all the younger ones. 8 years old, didn't know how to read, write, but then as he grew up, he never touched alcohol, and when I say that, he never drank. Sure. He might have a couple just with his son when they do the sharing, but he's not one that chased beer. Didn't like us to want to even touch, dabble in. But I guess, you know, as you grow up, you want to learn your own.
That's right.
You want to make your own mistakes. So that was one thing. And business was the other thing with him. He had his own businesses as well. So he, and then he took on the farm, cleared the farm, a whole lot of, you know, just a lot of hard work. So watching that sort of thing, how he overcame the problems, how he taught himself how to read, write, and do numbers, really good at numbers.
Wow.
So for business, he was one that always looked at the people and with, these people concentrate too much on a lot of silly little things.
Right.
So it was for him to change and to chase business and to not become involved in that cycle of
Sure.
beer, drinking, and yeah.
Because that was quite prominent I Auaware, is the substances, whether it's alcohol or other things, and for your kaumātua to be able to recognise that but look at other ways to move past it, and him sort of looking down at you guys, I believe may have been something more for him to be more of that example.
And then I see in his time when we were brought up, raised on the farm, he led by example. You didn't stand around and wait to be asked to do something. You had to go and do it. And so I remember getting a growling from my uncle one time. Oh, uncle, you want me to help you? He was shearing. I should have and he said, just get in, don't ask. Get in, get a sheep, come out and shear it. I would have been about 14, 15. And that's in the wool shed. So that's part of the growing up. You learn not to be told to do something. You learn to go in and do it and look for the solution.
Wow.
My koro always had solutions, and no matter what it was. I remember one of the uncles, how are you going to get that thing up there? It was a big rafter, was building a new wool shed. The next day when the uncle came back and the wool shed was up, the rafter was up there, way above, and he said, how the hell did you do that? Always a solution. And so it's about looking for those solutions, and a big part of that learning at that time was to have a whole variety of things that I did as a kid.
Sure.
And that helped in my later life in employment, even in business, even in mātara ioreu. Coming up with solutions, you want to do something, so you need to get this, that and that to make this. Maybe it's a prop, maybe it's a dress.
Yeah, right.
Or a type of uniform costume. And so you learn to become, I guess, a bit of a MacGyver. You rely on your own resources and your common sense to make things meet, make things happen, make ends meet. Yeah, so big influence was my koro, and then my parents too. They never drank, and my mum smoked, played a lot of housey, but I learned with a big family living in the house that. And we had one time 17 of us living in the house. Wow. With my auntie and uncle, they came to live with their kids. And then we had my 2 cousins living with us. And so we had a big family. We had 8 in our family plus 2 adopted. Yeah. But I remember one time I was 17 in the house, 3 bedrooms, a shed, and turned into a little sleep out. Yeah. But all our families around on our street were big families. And when you run out of butter and sugar, bread, you go and ask the whānau, or they come and ask you. And that's how we were, all brought up like that. Still almost like on the marae, and the people next door were our cousins anyway. The Rapana family, my Uncle Thompson, Auntie Phyllis. So we all looked after each other, played together, fought together, and but we all stayed close when we grew up.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's also about you're observing certain things as a young person. You're sort of taught how to be resourceful. You're taught how to, I guess, use your own intuition and instinct of how can you, I guess, not necessarily fill a gap, but first observe it. Where can I use my creativity to either add value or to make something happen? Yeah. And it's cool to hear that that kind of upbringing has now translated to some of the experiences that you've had within your creativity, within your Pākehī, within other things that you've been able to do. So it's beautiful to hear those kōrero. And then what was the first Pākehī that you felt you jumped into that that you're able to pull all of these tools together?
It was when I was 23. I got married, and then my wife, we got married and went to live in Murupara, where my wife's father was living, mother was living, stepfather. They had bought a business. They bought this shed for the big trucks and tractors they owned, and they were doing bush clearing and skids in Murupara, up in the Kaingaroa forest. There was a shop that came with the shed, and that lease came up, and they said, "Oh, you want to run that shop?" Because I was working in the bush with my mate. My wife was going to go teaching, so that was good. We were 3 years at Waikato University, where I met Timoti, Karetu, and
Right.
Wharehuia and Hirini Melbourne in them. And awesome 3 years or 2 years, because I dropped out. I dropped out after 2 years and I went to work, so my wife carried on and she finished her degree in teaching. We went back there, I took over the shop, and then I learned how to become a businessman there. 25, so at 23, took it over, 22, so my mother-in-law, Bettina Wynyard, from the Turner family, also the Te Hate, Tahikuru was, the Te Awamutu area, anyway, Ngāti Maniapoto. So she helped me, started me off, oh, you got to do this, pay your bills like this and that, and then this is how you fill out a check. So I was keen to learn, so I did, and I learned, and I started carrying on, and 2 years later I bought another business uptown, so I had 2 fish and chip shops working at the same time, employing a number of people, and I enjoyed that, you know.
Wow.
And lived there for a while, and at the same time I had come away from a kapa haka background because I was brought up around Ohine Mutu. Ngāti Whakaue was really my start, where I stood in with our family hapu of Ngāti Whakaue, Tororo Tarangi, I'm from there, from that side. So that upbringing and tourism, concerts, you know, the Morrison family were all right into Tamatakapua. That was the big hub of the tourists, and they used to come there. And there's another one that started up was the Ritz under Uncle Skip Morehu, and that became quite a big place where tourists came. And so, and then tourism outside of the hotel started to build up.
Right.
And so I left that background to go into business, and so I was doing the fish and chips for a while, and then one of my whanaunga from Tuorangi, oh, can you come and help the kapa? And I'd already had experience, and I loved it, the Polynesian festival with Tuorangi Whakaue, but I'd left it behind and I'd gone to varsity, then I went to this business, running that for a little while, and I came back. I was sort of starting to dabble with kapa haka again, and so Tuorangi, I went there in 87, 88.
Wow.
And then I finished again and went into tourism with Mike Tamaki. And so they started theirs also, and he said, oh, look, I want you to do my kapa haka. Well, I must have had a bit of a feeling that something like that was going to come up, because 2 months before we started practicing to go into tourism.
Wow.
And then he approached me, oh, I need a team. We're ready. So we went in and started the Tamaki tours off out at Rakeiao, Marae, and we got things going. And we had a good time. And but after a while, I went back. I left it, and I left my young brother there with it, and he carried on and really built them up over the next 11 years. But I went teaching. And then I saw maybe I should be back in tourism.
Just kept calling you back, eh?
Yeah.
It just kept calling you back.
Yeah. So my uncle Irirangi had started Mātarai, when was that? 1984. There was a hui, and it was in Te Arawa, and he said, oh, I want to change the whole look of things. So I want to start, I want to get up there and I want to vote. But he couldn't vote, right? So he wanted to be a part of the voting system at the big meeting of the Te Arawa Regional Kapa Haka. And so he couldn't be a part of it. So he gets up and when I look, you can't vote. So he said, why is it? You haven't got a kapa group. So he went up to the board, wrote a name up there, Te Mātarai Orehu, and he says, yes, I have. There it is.
There it is.
Next day he came around to my place. Hey, I've got a team. You're it. You do all the choreography, and I'll write all the words. And I said, well, am I going to do that? I don't know what to do. I'm only a kid. I was 36. I wasn't a kid, but and then already had experience. So he said, no, you do that. So I jumped in, did it, and I said, oh man, going to miss out on the blooming nationals now. Because Kahurangi Morrison, she said, boy, you shouldn't be judging, you should be on the stage. So I decided, I decided then, that's Howard Morrison's mum. Okay, I'll go then and I'll try. Then I thought, once Eddie came around, I'm not going to the nationals, I was going to go and join Ngāpu Manawa, Wiremu Williams and Tiny. She was over there. Anyway, I started the team. Oh, well, never mind. My uncle said I've got to do this, so all right, I'll do that. He taught me through the years, so that was my giving back. And also to the whānau, we have to start this whānau group. Oh, look, we had nobody. Well, not many were turning up. And then Uncle was sick, he had cancer. Wow. And so over time he couldn't help, so I had to make everything up. I said, come to the haka. What do we do with the haka? Use all our battle formations. So we went through the battle formations, and from that point on he said, right, you got to move like this, do this, that and that. And the weaponry you've been taught already, so you got to use the weapons, all the weapons at some point in time. Bring all the weapons and use the battle formations so those things are not lost. And
wow.
Try and concentrate not so much on the singing, because that's operatic and that's an introduced thing. So we want to go back in time to take what we can from the old songs and try and introduce or reintroduce back in. But my idea of it was a bit boring. Haka after haka, 5 hakas, you're going to be sick of that. How do we do this with a little bit of sugar and spice? Over time it was to introduce a little bit of this and that in terms of movement, in terms of creating a visual picture on stage, portraying and depicting maybe past event battle, past event happy songs, happy, joy, love among people, and all that sort of. So everything comes to a point where you go, it's all happening, it's all helpful. Everything I've learned to this point has come from my background with my uncle, with my koro, and now putting in, and with my mother-in-law and father-in-law. By the way, Pai Wynyard, he's gone now, but he was a great chopper, and his son now is he's a great chopper as well. So and the boys are doing really well in basketball. One of them, Tai, he's just gone into the tall blacks again, and got the young fella. He's coming up. He's about almost 7 foot. That one, Tai is 6'10". So he's going to do well in basketball. Must do with that sort of height. But all of that.
It all just started to come together.
Yeah, so I look at it, so it might kind of be mixed up the way I'm trying to explain this, but a holistic view on everything coming together. You can't look at one part without
the other.
The other, and incorporating everything in. So everything's come together, and I'm on this journey still.
It feels like your kōrero in terms of, being in tourism, being in the space that allows you just to express who we are as Māori. It's like our cultural identity is not only within us, but you've found a way to express it, but also there's this other pathway of sharing that with the world. And it felt as though like tourism kept bringing you back, and your passion for haka is how you're able to sort of encapsulate all of that whole kōrero, where you're able to use your gift of understanding te ao tuku iho, being able to be a te rekereke o kaumātua, hearing all of this kōrero, and then being able to utilise that in some way. And so you talked about, those fish and chip shops, and I heard that it was the one by Rotorua Boys, is that right?
No.
Did they come in later? Oh, Murupara.
Yeah, two of them in Murupara. Yeah.
And do you feel in that āhuatanga or even across the board, some of the things that I've read and learnt within the space of being in a Pāki is that managing people seems to be the hardest. Have you ever felt challenged in that way when you've had employees or things of that nature?
As a teacher, you learn to have that professional distance.
Sure.
You get too close and then people take advantage. They start to run over you. I'm quite soft, so...
Wow.
And that's the same with anything I do. I tend to have to be careful that I don't get taken away. But I'll allow people to talk to me. There may be some, I always see... Say an idea might come to me in Mātarai. Okay, I don't know everything. Maybe there's a part in the corner of this house I didn't shine my torch into that corner. So they may help me to see that. But in the end, it's about taking for the best of everybody, being on the level, but also having to come out of that and take the shot. At some point, you have to let the dart go and let it fly to the dartboard and keep on aiming. It is something, some of the teachings. I like to go back to my koro, and I always used to say that never, in his broken English, never to follow the trouble, for that trouble always to follow you.
Wow.
Never follow trouble. And that's one of them. And the other thing is I learned from another guy when I was working at the log yard in Waipa. When I was a young fella, I left school, went there, then I went overseas with this group. I used to see him do this work. He said, oh man, gee, mate, you make that look easy. And what he said was, there's always an act to everything in life. All you need to do is find it.
Wow.
And that stuck with me, that one. And then another one is not what you got that counts, it's how you use it that counts.
Wow.
So you might have been born with disadvantages, but there's always an advantage that everyone has.
Yes.
It's been given to you by the Creator. And you just need to find that, find your power, and then move with that. Finding, and a spiritual life I tried to lead. I was a Catholic, and I came away from the Catholic Church, so I ended up sort of disillusioned a bit from.
Yeah.
But not putting religion down, because there's a time and place for religion. And
Kōrero.
my koro always used to say there's a time and place for everything. And sometimes you must be humble, but sometimes you have to put the humble away and to be strong, to stand up. And then you put the humble back in there again, because
Wow, it's the balance, eh?
Always the balance, yeah. But humble most times is like rongo most times, not too. You're not going to war all the time. But for the betterment of your family, you're going to stand up when you have to. And sometimes you have to be the watchdog, because sometimes there's a watchdog that has to keep an eye on the flock that doesn't see the wolf among the flock.
Wow.
And these things are paramount to me. And when we look at money, people say money is the root of all evil. It's not the money that's the root of all evil, it's the people with the money.
Kia ora.
You can make money, but you can make money do good for people.
Kōrero.
And I've always looked at money as being a kumara. The more kumara you make, the more people you can feed. And so that's what money is. It's powerful in that, from that perspective. Because at the end of the day, we're not here forever. But when we go to the other side, you're going to be asked the question, what did you do to help people when you were alive? I hope I've helped in a way. Sometimes it's quite a lone trip, because I've been a loner in many respects. And I'm lucky I have my whānau around me that help me to do things. Sometimes I can be reclusive, but I can be out there, and I'm a down-to-earth person, I believe. I like to have a laugh, sometimes too much, especially when I'm teaching and I'm telling them not to laugh, and then I laugh and crack up.
Do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah, that's the one. That's a good one. Yeah.
But it's beautiful to hear these profound messages and kōrero that you've been able to hear, and you've been able to apply it in your life in some way. And I'm sure there's been some challenges within the application, because it's one thing to know things intellectually and to understand it, but it's different when you can actually put it into practice and you're like, whoa, ko tai mai te maramatanga. It then dawns on you what that actually means when you're in it. And, what does it mean for Māori in business? Like, is it a natural progression for us as Māori to transfer into this huarahi? Because I believe we're natural navigators, we're very innovative, but it seems to be like a gap that we're entering a world that feels unfamiliar to us. But is there familiarity in that?
Yes, I believe that we are natural entrepreneurs. We always have been. And it's a natural instinct rather than something learned. I think because of survival, and opportunism comes in there too, which we need to be careful of, because we don't want to take advantage of people when they're down. But surely it's about survival, and it's about common sense and making it work. As long as we're thinking for the collective,
Kōrero.
then that's the one, when we use those talents to bring forward for other people to also benefit. But you know that you've got you're navigating your path, and hopefully on that path that you're cutting, that you're pulling people along by your being the example. As I said, my koro always led by example. He didn't tell you what to do. Hopefully you picked up by watching, and then you went forward with it. But the main thing is, when you're in there, and you're able to rearrange the furniture once you're in the house, but you need to get in the house first. Yeah.
And I think about that kōrero and just the way you've been able to articulate that and kōrero around, there's this one framework of what business is supposed to look like. But when we look at it through a non-Māori perspective, it seems as though we serve, eh? We do think of our whānau, our hapu, our iwi, and what that means. And I feel sometimes it's just trying to remain true to that whakaaro rather than getting consumed in the materialism or other things or the capitalism that seems to be very present in this space. And so how have you been able to navigate the changes, as we've all gone through things on a global scale because of, tērā matenga, but, because your tourism business was booming here in Te Arawa, and obviously there's a reliance on people coming through the door in order for you to sustain the business. But now pivoting and how have you pivoted or how have you made some decisions or changes underneath the circumstances?
Well, you're dead right that we were heavily impacted by the loss of business. In terms of we are about 95% international guest visitors. So we did have other options. Kapa kai was something that was able to help employ some of our people. We tried to keep our 80 staff on as long as we could, but then there was no light at the end of the tunnel, so had to let them go. And I think they did understand that we did our best. We did receive funding to try and help that the business itself to survive, not knowing when the gates would open again. And so still there's a cloud looming over everyone. There are many businesses that have gone out of business. I think if you have a look at the stats, there's quite over 10,000 that have been lost, and that's just when looking at the supply chain all the way through. Whole lots of different businesses have been affected.
Wow.
Sad. We hope that the borders that are supposed to be opening on the 31st of July, that does happen. Bit reticent, I suppose, and belief in what's really happening out there, because the world economy has really taken a huge hit.
Yep.
And for them also overseas to be able to climb back out of the hole that has been created, we need to still have a little bit of reserve. Don't spend all our money thinking that the tourists are going to come back.
Come back, eh?
Always have something else to do. And my focus recently has been on the gardens for our people. We've also looked at whakaputanga. We looked at sovereignty. So I'm a person who's studied the things that are happening in the world for the last 10 years, since 2011. So it's 11 years. Studying the world, studying the economy, it was all about money and how we sit within that money paradigm, and the powers that be in terms of banking, all sorts of infrastructure, the government and the impact of governmental regulations and rules, statutes, how they impact upon you. So it's all part of Sun Tzu. You want to look that one up because it's important for any business to learn the art of war.
Beautiful.
To know the enemy, to know yourself is to win 100% of the time, or close to. But if you know yourself and you don't know your enemy, you win 50% of the time. You know the enemy, you don't know yourself, and gain 50%. But you know your enemy and yourself, then you win 100% of the time.
That's all about strategy, eh?
Strategy, yeah.
Puka there, and understanding.
Understanding, and also when it's time to switch on, you switch on. And so...
It's also having that sort of feeling of having your back up against the wall. Yeah. And I suppose it comes back to you as a young tamaiti, as a teenager looking at your kōrero, and you're like, how can I be resourceful in this current climate? Yeah. And so what can you see different within the tourism space, particularly if we move away from relying on many people coming through, how can we sort of navigate within that space? Is there a way of creating more depth rather than just having people just come through all the time? Is there something that you can see within that space that could be of benefit?
I wish I'd tried a bit more diversifying, bought more land, bought more assets and houses over the time that I've been in business, and also possibly looked at other ventures. I did do a couple of things in terms of my family trying to set up business in Dubai as well as in Malaysia. We had little rooms for people in transit in the international airport in both Dubai and Malaysia. So that was a strategy I wish I'd continued with, but I wasn't there all the time, and then things get lost, and things also get taken away from you if you're not careful. And,
kōrero.
I had that happen to me in Dubai where my business partner did the dirty.
Wow.
Unfortunately, I won't let you know who he is, but he knows who he is out there if he's listening. Spent a lot of money getting that set up, and then it was taken. And the other thing to it too, when you're doing business with any other overseas, you need to know them, the people, their culture, how they operate, what they like, do not like, and how you can create cohesiveness or non-productivity by being at odds with each other.
Wow.
So that's something that I should have really, in depth. And looking back on it, I learned the lesson. Do the DD, the due diligence on people, as well as the business. That's only simple, but you see...
We trust too easy, Papa Wetini?
Trust too easy, no. I wish
I've been burnt heaps, man, and it's fun.
Yeah. Well, so really, my nephew's, he's a great accountant now and work with Deloitte. I wish I did that. I wish I did accountancy and a bit more in business management to know how to deal with things like that. Now, in terms of what's coming up in the future, yes, tourism may come back. Definitely will over time. Give it a little bit more time. Although the gates are open, we do have good forward bookings. And so that looks like that's on the cards again, and dependent on how this world economy plateaus out. If not, and we go back into lockdown because of some further disturbance with these COVID-19 crazy things that are happening around the world. And there's the jury is still out for me on a lot of things that's happened in the world. But suffice to say, we are dictated to, governed by what's being happened and some of these things are not within our control. So to pivot on that, looking at other business, some people are doing really well on online businesses.
That's right.
But maybe that's the way to look. And so I encourage our young people, yes, get into it and see whether you can avoid going into Amazon.
Kōrero.
Into that sort of, and just do it on your own or something. I don't know, but where there's a will, there's a way.
Kōrero.
If you need to sell or can sell anything overseas, then you've got a huge market worldwide. But also remember, people that are stuck in their homes, they're going to do spending, but still, people still need to make money. There still needs to be people that go to the market and run really need people out there on the farms growing food.
That's right.
And food shortages in the future. That's why we're growing our food as well. So I encourage everybody listening, put some food into that lawn. Never mind mowing the lawn, put some kai in that lawn.
Pai tēnā kōrero.
A lot of that kai on that lawn, you can eat it when you're cutting away. You remember a lot of stuff that's in there, like the plantain and the kapa and all that kai that you're cutting. That's going to be really important on your lawn.
Wow.
Yeah.
Pai tēnā whakaaro. And when I listen to kōrero, there's a lot of lessons within your journey in business up until this point. And one of the key kōrero that I hear is being able to diversify, not putting all your eggs in one basket,
yes,
but also looking where the opportunities are in terms of this online space. We once had a food trailer business, and we sort of realized that it got to a point where we were using time and energy, and we could only sell so much kai. And so we made the pivot to sort of go online and looking at what can we provide as a service or something on there, because like you said, there's a world market, there's like so much more opportunity there. So to hear you have that kōrero, and also to build high trust relationships by further understanding who it is that you're connecting to, because you don't know people's true motives or their true intentions outside of you wanting your idea to work, and they could say something to make you feel that they're on your team, but as you've had that experience, it can go in the opposite direction. So thank you so much for this wānanga, for your lessons, and do want to pass it over to you, Papa Wets, for some final kupu, whether it's, you know, to your younger self, whether it's to anyone out there, whether it's your whānau who have ambitions of entering into tēnei au Pākihi, into this business space, into this space of creativity. Haha e tahi kupu whakamutunga mō rātou?
I think follow your intuition, but also with that, do a lot of learning. Do a lot of reading, read heaps. And if you can get into a business course or accounting, that opens fields. Even if you do some law papers or even books, or get a law book and read, so that opens, you understand what you're getting yourself into, whether it goes awry, things go awry. So the last thing is, if you have a passion, follow that. But even if you don't, you just weigh it all up, and then you jump in and you have a go. Once you do a calculated risk and assessment, and then you go for it. Well, don't be afraid. Just don't be afraid and just get in and have a go. I always say the kapa when we go on stage, go hard or go home. No, I didn't always used to say that. Just a couple of times when we went overseas, it was funny to do that. Yeah. Because it just loosens you, eh?
Kōrero.
And before you go on stage, it loosens you, because if you're really pent up, then your mind goes blank. A lot of people go blank. So to loosen and
too much in the nerves, eh?
Yeah, that's right. Too much in the nerves. So I was just saying to them, "What? You're not going to die. You're going to live after this. You'll walk off stage." But to have a bit of a laugh with things too, to be able to look at it and laugh at it. There are serious things in life too. Sometimes you just got to take it on the nose, take it on the chin, and get up and have another go. And don't matter how big the foe, you overcome the foe. There is always a way. There's always a way.
Beautiful. And Papa, where could people find you in terms of your Pākihi? You know, obviously things are going to open up shortly, but where can people find you?
Well, we're online, just Mitai Māori Village. We want to book in. We need your money.
Love the directness there.
No, too many of my whānau come, "Oh, too, cuz, can I come in?" "Oh, you too, cuz."
Nah, thank you so much for this beautiful kōrero, and like I said, tino wai marie katoa mātou I raro I te maru o tēnei kaupapa. Ko taimai nei koe ki te whakatinana, ki te whakaora I tēnei kaupapa I o kōrero. So, Papa Wetini, thank you so much, and all the best for everything that's about to unfold in the future. Ngā mihi.
Tēnā koe I o kōrero I tēnei taumata whakaatu nei ki te iwi whānui, pēhea nei te ahu whakamua I roto I ngā mahi Pākihi, hei oanga mo te whānau. Urera tēnā koe, tēnā koutou. Kia ora tātou.
Kia ora. Choice.